Jayudev, and thank you for joining us today. So today we are going to discuss the story of Bhasmasura and its living wisdom. So let's begin. So can you narrate for us the story of Bhasmasura, one of the fascinating asuras from Hindu mythology? Jagadev, as Bhasmasura was a demon who performed severe penance to Lord Shiva. Impressed, Lord Shiva granted him a boon. Whomever Bhasmasura touched with his hand would immediately be reduced to ashes of Bhasma. This extraordinary power, however, soon turned into a curse. Intoxicated with arrogance, Bhasmasura tried to test the spoon on Shiva himself. Lord Vishnu, seeing the danger, incarnated as the enchanting Mohini. Through her grace, charm, and dance, Mohini distracted Bhasmasura. Enthralled, he imitated her dance postures, and when she placed her hand on her own head, he followed suit. Instantly, he turned to ashes by his own power. This tale teaches us about the dangers of unchecked desire and misuse of divine gifts. Now that's powerful. How does this ancient story hold relevance for us in today's modern world? Jai Gurudev in Gurudev Shri Shri Ravi Shankar Ji's wisdom, this story reflects the human tendency to misuse power, talents, or knowledge when ego dominates. Just like Bhasmasura, when desires and arrogance overpower discernment, our gifts become self-destructive. Gurudev often reminds us, ahamkar or ego is like fire. When not managed, it burns you first. The art of living techniques like Sudarshan Kriya, meditation, and pranayama help dissolve stress, ego, and restlessness so we can channel our strength for service rather than destruction. In a way, Mohini represents wisdom and inner beauty, which guide us to redirect destructive tendencies back into harmony. Now, could you explain the spiritual symbolism between Mohini's role and defeating Bhasmasura? Jagadeva Mohini is not just an enchanting form of Vishnu. She symbolizes Maya or illusion and also Viveka or discernment. When ego and uncontrolled desires like those of Bhasmasura dominate us, only higher wisdom disguised in beauty and simplicity can misdirect and redirect the mind. By making Bhasmasura imitate her, Mohini turned his destructive power against himself. This is deeply symbolic. Our inner demons can only be destroyed by self realization, Gurudev often says. The mind follows charm if not guided by inner wisdom. It gets trapped in illusion, but the same charm when divine uplifts and liberates. Now, how does Gurudev Shri Ravi Shankar connect the story with human psychology in daily life? Yes, Gurudev simplifies such stories beautifully. He says Bhasmasura represents uncontrolled desire and the arrogance of ownership, thinking this power, this body, this achievement is mine. In relationships, careers, and society, when people misuse their position, they end up harming themselves first. Gurudev's teachings guide us to balance power with humility. In meditation, the burning restlessness of the mind cools down, like fire being transformed into light. The story teaches do not let the mind's boons, your intellect, wealth, or skills turn against you. Instead, offer them in service and they become blessings. Now, what final message can seekers take from the Bhasmasura story in connection with the art of living practices? Jai Gurudev, the message is timeless. Uncontrolled ego destroys, wisdom saves. Just as Mohini saved the world from Bhasmasura's arrogance, the grace of the Guru saves us from inner demons. Exactly, Gurudev Shri Ravi Shankar embodies that moksha-like wisdom, gentle, playful, yet deeply transformative. Through seva, satsang, and sadhana, we rise above destructive impulses. Sudarshan Kriya especially acts like Mohini. It guides the restless mind into rhythm, making one light, pure, and free. When wisdom and grace enter our lives, ego bows down, and the ashes of arrogance become the fertile ground for devotion and joy. Now, what did Lord Shiva and why did Lord Shiva grant such a dangerous boon to Bhasmasura? Jagadeva Shiva is known as Ashutosh, easily pleased. Out of compassion, he rarely denies a devotee's penance regardless of their intention. This quality reflects Shiva's neutrality. He gives without judgment, leaving it to the seeker's wisdom to use or misuse. The boon to Bhasmasura symbolizes how the universe grants us powers, wealth, intellect, health, freedom, but how we use them depends on our maturity. If misused, they backfire. Gurudev Shri Shri Ravi Shankar Ji often says, nature gives you power, but freedom and wisdom gives you direction. Without direction, even blessings can become a burden. Now, how does this story relate to the misuse of modern technology and knowledge? The story is very relevant today. Science and technology are like boons, powerful and transmitted, but if governed by greed, ego, or short sightedness, they can cause destruction just like Bhasmasura's hand. For example, nuclear energy can light up cities or destroy nations. Social media can connect people or spread hatred. Gurudev reminds us that knowledge must be rooted in human values. Through practices like meditation and seva, our inner compass is strengthened. Then technology becomes a blessing without inner clarity, as with Bhasmasura. The same boon leads to one's downfall. Now, why did Vishnu appear as Mohini and not in his usual divine form? Jagannatha, this is significant. If Vishnu had appeared in a traditional awe inspiring form, Bhasmasura would have resisted. Instead, Mohini's beauty captivated his ego driven mind. The teaching here is that wisdom often disguises itself in forms we can relate to. Divine intervention is not always grand, sometimes it comes subtly through charm, compassion, or a simple smile. Gurudev embodies this principle. His presence is so natural and playful, yet deeply transformative. Just as Mohini danced Bhasmasura to his end, Gurudev gently guides us through life's illusions until the ego collapses and truth shines. Now, why does Bhasmasura's attempt to destroy Shiva signify? It shows the nature of unrestrained ego. The very source that empowers us, like Shiva granting the boon, can become the target of our arrogance in daily life. People often rebel against their own roots. Parents, teachers, or traditions forgetting that these are the sources of their strength. Gurudev says, when you bite the hand that feeds you, you burn your own karma. Bhasmasura represents this ingratitude. In contrast, art of living practices cultivate gratitude. When gratitude flows, power becomes a tool for service. When ego dominates, power turns against its source and destroys the self. Now, what is the significance of Bhasmasura turning into ashes? Ashes in Hindu tradition signify impermanence and humility. Even the mighty body after death becomes bhasma. Bhasmasura's end in ashes shows how unchecked desire ends in nothingness. His destructive power turned upon himself, leaving only dust. Symbolically, this is a lesson that ego driven pursuits ultimately leave emptiness. In contrast, surrender to divinity leads to fulfillment in rituals. Devotees smear vibhuti or sacred ash as a reminder everything ends in ash, so live with wisdom. Gurudev Shri Shri Ravi Shankarji beautifully says, realizing impermanence frees you from arrogance and makes life a celebration. Now, why did Bhasmasura's own power destroy him instead of others? Jagannatha, because ego always boomerangs when arrogance drives action. The harm first returns to the source. In psychology. This is self sabotage, anger, greed, or jealousy harm the person before touching others. Similarly, Bhasmasura's hand symbolizes destructive desire. By imitating Mohini, he unknowingly turned his power inward. Gurudev says, your negative emotions are not against other, but they burn you from within. So Darshan Kriya releases these inner toxins instead of carrying the fire of ego. One radiates joy. Bhasmasura's fate shows if we don't master our mind, our own energy consumes us. Now, what does Mohini's dance symbolize in this context? Mohini's dance represents the play of life and the rhythm of creation. Bhasmasura, driven by obsession, copied blindly without awareness. This is symbolic. When we mimic life without wisdom, we destroy ourselves. Dance is a metaphor for divine play, where awareness is key. In rituals and Bharatnatyam, every mudra has meaning, but without inner depth, they are hollow. Gurudev emphasizes that life should be lived as a dance, graceful, aware, and balanced. Mohini's dance was wisdom disguised as beauty, guiding Bhasmasura to his end. For seekers, it reminds us to dance with awareness, not with blind desire. Now, how does this story reflect the dangers of temptation? Jacob, temptation is natural, but when unchecked, it clouds wisdom. Bhasmasura fall prey to temptation. First the boon, then Mohini's charm. His downfall came because he lacked discernment in today's world. Temptations come as consumerism, addictions, and unchecked ambitions. Gurudev often says, temptation by itself is not the problem. Clinging to it is. Art of living practices build inner strength to face temptations without being enslaved. Through meditation, the mind becomes centered, the temptations lose their grip. Mohini here is the higher wisdom that distracts the ego from external temptations until it dissolves into awareness. Now, why is Bhasmasura often seen as a warning for seekers on the spiritual path? Because even spirituality can be misused, just as Bhasmasura misused his boon from Shiva. A seeker may misuse mantra, siddhi, or knowledge for egoistic ends. This leads only to downfall. Scriptures repeatedly warn about siddhi traps, powers gained through penance that turn inflate egos. True spirituality is surrender, not possession. Gurudev reminds seekers, don't chase powers, chase purity. Bhasmasura says and teaches us the purpose of sadhana is not to control others but to master oneself. When humility is absent, even divine blessings destroy. When humility is present, blessings uplift everyone around. Now, how does the art of living approach prevent seekers from becoming like Bhasmasura? Jayagurudev, through three pillars of sadhana or practice, seva or selfless service, and satsang or the company of the wise. Sadhana purifies the inner self, seva dissolves the ego, and satsang keeps wisdom alive. This triple path ensures that the gifts we give, we gain through spiritual practice, like clarity, peace, even extraordinary experiences, are channeled for good. Gurudev's presence itself acts like Mohini, gently guiding seekers away from ego traps. Many participants in Art of Living courses share that they came with stress and ambitions, but after Sudarshan Kriya, they felt humility and connection. That shift saves us from Bhasmasura like arrogance, turning power into compassion. Jai Gurudev.